Hiya guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the delicious hot cross buns. So last time I made hot cross buns was honestly about 3 years ago and they came out like rocks. So I'm going to be very honest with you all. I haven't made them since and I'm really hoping that this recipe is a bloody banging recipe. So first off, we are going to be making a Tanzong. Now, Tanzong is essentially, I might be pronouncing that wrong, so I apologise if I am, but essentially it's just flour and milk, and then we're going to simmer it on the stove. As always, all of our quantities for our ingredients are in the description box below, but basically what we're going to do is we're just going to pour into a medium saucepan our milk, as well as our 30 grams of flour, like so, and then now we're going to pop it on the hob. And then we're going to stir it until it is completely mixed through. And as the heat of the flour and the milk come together and combine, the mixture will thicken up and almost come into like a glue consistency, which is exactly what we want. So we'll just keep stirring and mixing until the mixture has come to that consistency. And I've just popped it on that low to medium heat. Alright, so you can see it's just starting to turn now, where it's just taking a little bit longer to come back to a liquid form, and you can see it's just starting to get like almost gloopy. So we just want to do that until the whole mixture is thoroughly gloopy. And then we can just take it off the heat. So I'd say that that's probably about good now. I'll show you what this is. So it's almost like gloopy, a gloopy kind of paste consistency, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to take it off the heat now and then bring it back to our electric mixer. Okay, so now that we have our lovely Tanzong here, we are going to basically try and cool it down in the mixer. So I have my KitchenAid mixer here with my dough hook attachment, and I'm just going to add all of my Tanzong into the bowl, along with, just make sure we get all of that gorgeous gooey mess. Now this helps bring in more moisture into our bread, which basically results in a better, softer bread, which is exactly what we want. So we've got our Tanzong in our mixing bowl, along with our yeast, our milk. Now I've just warmed this, so it's a sort of medium warm temperature. The Tanzong will warm the, help activate the yeast because it's that warm temperature anyway. So we've got our milk, our yeast, and our caster sugar going in there, and then we're just going to pop this on a very low speed until everything has sort of come together really nicely and the Tanzong itself has cooled down in temperature. Okay, so now that that has come together quite nicely, it's pretty much all mixed through. It is time to add our flour, our eggs, and our salt. So let's pour in our flour. Now I am using really good quality strong bread flour just to help make these balls lovely and stretchy and delicious. We're going to add in our salt, and lastly our egg. In that goes, and then we're going to pop this on a medium to high speed until everything has come together. Now, just a warning here, this dough is a very wet dough. don't be alarmed. That's absolutely fine. You'll think that you need to start adding more flour. Please don't. Give it honestly about 15 minutes to knead through and keep going, and the dough will then start to come together really nicely. It will still be quite a wet dough, but it will fall off the sides. It won't be all sort of sticky as it is when you first start. So let's go. Alrighty, now as you can probably hear, it's starting to make more of a bit of a clap kind of sound as it's going around, and all of the dough has sort of come away from the sides. It's a lot more smoother in consistency. You can see the gluten is starting to form, which is exactly what we want. So it's been going now for, the time is actually about to go off. So it's been going now for 15 minutes. So now it is time to start adding our softened butter. So I'm going to put it back on a medium speed and then slowly integrate the butter into the dough. We want to sort of do little nugget by little nugget. And then once all the butter is in, then we're basically ready to proof it. So pretty exciting. So let's turn it back on. There's that clapping sound, if you can hear it. And then we'll start to add in our butter. And it is really important that it's softened butter as well, because it will just mean that it's a lot easier for the butter to absorb the mixture. The mixture to absorb the butter is what I'm trying to say. Now that all the butter has all mixed in, we're going to beat that now for another good 5 minutes until all of that butter is thoroughly mixed through that dough. And it will look like the butter isn't mixing through the dough and the butter's just kind of going around the outside of the bowl. Don't stress, don't worry, just keep kneading the dough, whether you're doing it with a mixer or with your hands, and it will work through the dough, promise you. Obviously, the smaller the little nuggets of dough, little nuggets of butter you have, the easier it is for the dough to incorporate. Alrighty, so now that dough has fully added all of that butter into its gloriousness, you can see how gorgeous that dough is. Like, it's honestly sensational. It's lovely and pulley. And if I was to do the window test, it works perfectly. So we know that that dough is done. So now it is time to transfer it to a bowl. So we want a oiled bowl if possible. And then we're going to pop it into a nice little humid place that you have around the house. So being that I'm in Australia and it is summer, it's quite easy for me to find a warm spot in this house. But if you don't, I have a little trick for you. So we will just pop our lovely stringy dough. Oh, let's try and get it off this mixture. I always find it's the hardest thing once it's been mixing for so long, because the mixer almost like, the bowl almost like reattaches itself, makes it really hard to get it off. There we go, we got it. Sorry guys. All right, so now that we can get our bloody bowl out of the mixer, we're just going to move this guy out of the way. We're just going to pour our lovely dough into a oiled bowl, like so. Just making sure you get all of that dough out of the bowl. If you have a dough scraper, that would be really, really handy right now, and get all of that dough in there. And then we can wrap the top with some plastic wrap, like so. And if you do have a nice warm house, stick it in your laundry cupboard where your heater is or your boiler is. Otherwise, if you don't, my little trick for today is pop it in the oven. Now hear me out here. You use a baking tray from the oven. You pour boiling hot water into your tray like so. And then you pop your hot tray of water into the bottom shelf of the oven. And then you literally just pop your lovely dough that's wrapped nice and tightly into the oven and leave it to hang out in there, because then you're creating the humid, hot temperature which you essentially need for our dough to proof. So we're going to pop our dough in there in your hot spot, wherever that is, in a little proofing area, for an hour and a half, and then we'll come back after then and it will hopefully have doubled in size. So we will see you shortly. Alright guys, our dough has been proofing and I am so excited to get it out of the oven because it has doubled in size. Alright, so look at this. Now, I don't know if you remember what it looked like going in, but it definitely wasn't this size. It was probably, honestly, about a third of this. So this is probably at the point where we really need to take it out of the oven. So, as I explained before, I had it in the oven turned off with a baking tray of hot water, just to help really bring out the proofing process and help the whole thing go along. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our spices and our fruit. Now, traditionally a hot cross bun can be raisins, mixed peel, really whatever you want to add to it. Today I'm going to do my traditional take on it, well, take on a traditional hot cross bun, because I love a traditional hot cross bun, but I don't like mixed peel. So I'm just going to do a sultana hot cross bun, or a raisin hot cross bun, as most people are familiar with, but obviously still the same flavours as a normal hot cross bun. So I'm going to lightly flour my workbench, like so. And then I might just put some flour on my hands too. And then I'm going to turn my lovely dough out onto the bench. Oh, it's just beautiful and stringy, exactly what we like. Yes. And you can smell it, it just smells incredible. So, I'm going to get my trusty dough scraper too, and just get all of that excess of the dough out of that bowl. Like so. Then, just going to put a little bit of that flour over it so it doesn't stick to the top. And then it is now that we've kind of deflated all of that air out of it, it's ready to have all of the delicious flavouring added to it. So, for the flavourings, we have some mixed spice, which is our traditional hot cross bun flavouring. So I'm going to add that in. Now you can pop this back into the mixer, and then put it on a low speed, but I prefer not to, purely just because you don't want to overwork the dough, and I just prefer to do it with your hands because you can get a lot better feel for the dough this way. So I've just added in all of that spice, and I'm just gonna make sure that that is all thoroughly mixed in. Feel free to grab any more flour if you need it. It is still quite a wet dough, which is absolutely fine, but it's obviously got all that moisture in there, so it's going to be lovely and soft when we bake these. So now I'm going to add, now that that mixed spice is pretty much mixed through, I'm going to add in my sultanas. So I've got my sultanas there, and I'm just really carefully going to mix these, knead these through the dough until they're thoroughly dispersed. It will take a little bit of time, but just be patient with your dough and they will all thoroughly combine. As you can see, the dough is still quite wet, so if you at any point want to reflour your bench, please do. But it won't take long before all of the sultanas are thoroughly mixed in. But I am going to add a little bit more flour to the bench. Bring back my dough scraper. Now, honestly, the dough scraper is probably one of the best tools to use when making bread, because you can just essentially pick it all up and plop it back down with the dough scraper. It's honestly so good. So we're looking nearly there with our dough. You can see most of the mixed spice mix through nicely. Just give it a good old turn around. Sorry, I need to turn my phone off. And now it's looking pretty good, I think. All right, so now that your dough is basically ready to roll out, I'm just going to re-flour my bench. Pick up my lovely dough, and we're going to carefully divide our dough up into 16 balls. Now, you can do this either via scales or by eye. I'm today going to do it by eye. So, get rid of all of that lovely dough off my hands. All right, so I'm just going to go straight down the middle here. Section that off. And then I'm going to try and get it into a rectangle, just so we can get it as even as possible. And I'm going to go half again, and then half the other way, and then half again. So you should end up with 8 fairly even pieces of hot cross bun dough. And then to that, I'm just going to roll them into a ball. And then let's move these to the side. And then on your workbench, I'm just going to clear some of that flour away. And I'm going to show you a really, really cool trick. So what you basically want to do is you want to roll them into a ball like this, and then almost peel back each side like so. And then just roll them like that with almost like a cup around the ball. And there you go. There you have it. Your first hot cross bun. So I have a square tin here, and I'm literally going to line this 4 by 4. So let's go. And now once we have done all of our balls, we are going to proof these guys again. So we want to proof them in another warm spot. This time I'm not going to pop them back in the oven because I need to, whilst proofing these balls, we're going to turn our oven on. So we want to proof them for roughly around 30 to 45 minutes, again, until they have doubled in size. All right, guys, so now our lovely hot cross buns are lovely and proofed for the second proof, and they are looking lovely and big and exactly how we want them. So nice and jiggly. So we'll leave them aside for now. We are going to make the classic cross that goes on, you know, your traditional hot cross bun. So I have my water and my flour here, and we're just going to make a little paste now. So just stir that together. I've got my piping bag at the ready, and we're just going to then pipe them on. So just get this to a nice paste consistency. You may need a bit more water. If so, that's absolutely fine. But this is kind of what we want. We want this sort of like sticky paste kind of consistency. Perfect. Then we have our piping bag here, and I'm just going to fill the piping bag up with all of this glorious flour water mixture. Like so, and then we can bring in our beautiful hot cross buns. Now, obviously, you should have your oven preheating at 180 degrees Celsius. So please make sure that your oven is at temperature right now. And then we are going to trim the edge of our piping bag. And then we can start piping. So the technique that I'm going to show you here is basically we're going to draw a line from the very top to the very back, but going in the little divots of each bun, and then we're going to rotate 90 degrees and do the same. So I'll show you now. So then going down, over, down, over, down. All right, so carry on again. So we'll go down and over, down and over. Just like so. All right, so now that we have done our lovely crosses and they are looking a lot more like hot cross buns, it's time to bake. So we have obviously our oven preheated at 180 degrees, and we're going to bake these between 35 to 40 minutes until they are lovely and golden brown and look lovely and crispy on the top, just how we like them. So we shall see you in a bit. All right, so now our lovely hot cross buns have come out of the oven. They're looking lovely and golden brown, just how we like them. Now, they are still they're like lukewarm, so perfect temperature for us to then apply our apricot jam on top. So I have melted some apricot jam, and then I'm literally just going to use my pastry brush all over the tops of these delicious buns. And I'm just going to coat the entire top so that they're lovely and sticky and shimmery, just like we know our hot cross buns in the supermarket. Okay, so now all of our hot cross buns are coated in our delicious apricot jam. It is time to do the delicious pull away test. So I'm gonna probably gonna pull this guy off. Oh my God, yum. Look at that. That looks absolutely delicious. You can see all of the lovely sultanas in there and the mixed spice pieces. And we'll pull it open. It's lovely and soft and chewy. Yum. I'm so excited to try that. Okay, so let's try these delicious guys. Obviously, you eat a hot cross bun toasted, so that is normally how we do it, but yum. They are so good. So, so good.
Yummy.
All right, guys, well, there you have it. We have our lovely hot cross bun recipe. Now, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this video, and I hope you make them at home. If you do, you know the drill. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and tag me in your beautiful hot cross bun images, because I'd love to see them. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a lovely week, and we shall see you next week. Bye, guys.